time to have the time to teach a stranger what you like. Every beginner's the same. I don't even remember their names. I had a line memorized, but it doesn't work that way. Missing what we had, wishing we could get that back. You see me, you want me, you conquer. We will see who's stronger. I don't need to talk you through it. We're locked into it. Our love speaks like water. It's fluid. Remember when you laid your eyes on.
Hello, welcome to a question and response session for this week. First, my apologies for coming on here later than I initially communicated. I intended to actually come on at 11:11. It would have been a fun time to jump on, but someone in a friends group and a family friends group gave me a call about a challenge that he was having, asking for some advice, and I stuck on the call until we finished that conversation, and now I'm here. So thank you so much for your patience. Officially kicking off our question and response session. Now, I asked for your questions over at our Instagram community page at Vaginismus Sisters, and I received 4 beautiful questions from you. That's what we're going to go into today. And of course, you're always welcome to jump on live with me directly in our Zoom room to ask more questions or simply have a more personalized experience. Other than that, in our Facebook community, you're also welcome to watch live or on the recording. And I'm going to be popping in back and forth just to check if there's any additional questions being added in the comments, literally while we're speaking together. Before we dive into the first question, I actually wanted to share something with you that I wrote this morning. And it comes from this place. In my work today, as I support you in overcoming vaginismus and in your sexual liberation, a place from which I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I am going to be here consistently to provide an ear to listen, to lend a helping hand, to point you in the right direction of resources, medical professionals that you might want to have help from on your particular journey. And of course, to continue to build community and sisterhood together, to feel like you're not alone in this. And I remember how alone I felt. And this is what I'm trying to prevent, the isolation that we might find ourselves in when it comes to this very private pain of vaginismus. So I want you to know that I'm here for you consistently, and you're going to see me coming back week after week to have these question and response sessions, as well as you're going to see more guidance and support in our Instagram community page. Other than that, we've got programs that you can get involved in for more interactive experiences, specifically our sexually liberated journey. And there's an evolution in sexually liberated that is on the brink. So we'll look out for really exciting news on how you can get involved in more of a short time period, intensive growth around a particular topic. And of course, putting all of those together is beautiful, but I want to have you feel like you can get involved for a short period of time, pop back out, and then come back whenever you'd like some more additional support. So what I wrote for you today. Vaginismus is a heavy word. It sounds like Christmas, yet it stripped me of pleasure-filled gifts for more than 6 years. Vaginismus is a private pain, not a private party. I experienced vaginismus and only 6+ years later claimed my sexual liberation. Because remember, it wasn't only about having the pain-free penetrative sex. It's about so much more than that. And that's why it's a sexual liberation. It was a tough road, a really lonely one. And that's why I've committed the last 4 years of my life to supporting you in kicking some vaginismus butt and enjoying your freedom in your erotic expression. Because you deserve that, even though it might not feel like it some days. That's why I do share my story with detail. I share my mistakes, I share breakthroughs, but I don't help you replicate the dirt path that I walked on. Instead, I guide you in carving your own path, a shortcut to your erotic transformation, a speed train, you might say, compared to my long winding walk with countless dead ends, hence all the mistakes. My deepest wish is that vaginismus doesn't strip you of your joy for even one day too long. So welcome to your new beginning, the beginning of the end to your vaginismus story. Welcome to you, sexually liberated. And I hope those words land in a place that feels empowering, in a place that also was very wounded in some way, shape, or form. We have all experienced pain that naturally created wounds in our erotic lives. But I want you to know that there's so much hope ahead, and this sisterhood is here to support you. I also believe in our divine readiness to take certain big forms of action, big steps in the road. And so you know yourself best, and you know your readiness at this moment today. The fact that you're watching this is amazing already. That's a huge win. And my ask and my invitation is to simply trust yourself day by day. Note your readiness level, note how you're feeling, feel how you're feeling, and allow yourself to take inspired action related to your story, your love story, your erotic shift in your life that will help you in overcoming vaginismus. So that's what I wanted to start with. It really brought me back to certain parts of my own journey that I was reminded of as I was writing this. And I look forward to sharing more and more with you, depending on the kind of questions you have and depending on what feels more supportive. But speaking of that, we're going to go ahead with our questions. I just have them here, so I'm looking down on the screen of my phone from the little question sticker on Instagram that I shared. Now, I want to note I'm responding to these. This means that I'm not giving the one and only answer. I'm not giving the one thing that I feel is the answer, the only correct way to go. This is my response based on my personal experience, based on everything I've learned over the last 4 years as I've trained in certain modalities to help with emotional healing, physical healing, sexual healing. But this means that this is a response that you get to decide whether it works for you or not. You, again, trust yourself and trust your knowing. Is what Katrin is sharing, does that feel right to me? And if it does, you're welcome to take on that recommendation. If it doesn't feel right to you, I urge you to set it aside and to look for another response that actually resonates with you. Because throughout this whole journey, we're learning to trust ourselves and our inner voice. We're learning to honor our yes, and we're learning very much to honor our no. So if something that I share feels like a no to you, trust yourself. And I don't pretend to have all the answers. I wish my doctors also did the same back in the day, but they did pretend to know all the answers in some cases. And that was incredibly unhelpful and really frustrating now that I look back at it. So question number 1. Is it possible to heal from vaginismus through just therapy, or is a doctor's intervention required? That's a great question. And I want to note that therapy, in the way that I'm understanding it, it could be the psychological aspects of therapy. It could also be the physical pelvic floor therapy that you're referring to. But I'm going to answer essentially one versus the other. So a doctor's intervention versus no doctor's intervention, or a pelvic floor physical therapist intervention versus no intervention by that kind of medical professional. First off, I feel like what is best in our lives is when we are supported by a tribe, by more than one single person. And that's why our group programs and sisterhood in general provides this layer of support that is not possible if we have just one person supporting us. So it always feels like the sense of belonging, like the advice, the guidance that we receive from multiple people, as long as it's in alignment with a holistic approach, for example, that always seems like is more helpful. So a tribe raising a child is better than a single parent raising a child in some cases. So I invite you to kind of keep that concept in the back of your mind. I am evidence. The women that I've supported who have overcome vaginismus and are having pleasurable penetrative sex, and maybe have also conceived, because we've had success stories like this with vaginal birth and all of that good stuff, we are all evidence that it's possible to overcome vaginismus without a doctor's intervention. This is fact. I, like I said, had walked this dirt road, which led me to lots of dead ends. And within that journey, I tried to have the support of certain medical professionals that in my path, unfortunately, didn't work for me. And in some cases created a bit more pain and trauma than I would have liked. So it might be true for you that you also got unlucky and the medical professionals that you have come across have had you feel disappointed with the kind of help that you were receiving. And therefore, you're kind of going on this lone wolf solo path, just like I did. And I overcame vaginismus. Now, looking back, yes, it was a lone wolf path, and it took more than 6 years. And hence, would it have been better if I got additional support from someone, medical professional or not? Absolutely. It would have probably helped me overcome vaginismus faster. But what's true is that it's not necessary. I think that pelvic floor physical therapists are the most specialized in helping us find relaxation in our pelvic floor muscles. Hence, if you're looking for a particular medical professional, this is probably the first place I would invite you to go so that you can work with a pelvic floor PT. Aside from that, it's important that either the pelvic floor PT is taking on a holistic approach, or you also have the support of someone who can help you navigate and tread through the emotional, psychological pieces that are at play here. A sex therapist might be one. I might be one if that feels right to you. There are other coaches out there that can help either in person or virtually. And I believe that us overcoming vaginismus from the safety and the comfort of our own homes is way more often actually more effective than if we're continuously going to a place like a doctor that actually also was a place of trauma. And it's harder to strip the pain that we have felt during a pelvic floor exam, a pelvic exam, any other medical exam or procedure that actually created pain for us. So literally that environment, that location is doused with a lot of traumatic memory that is hard to set aside and to recreate a new experience. Creating a safe, curious, pleasurable experience at home, in your bedroom, in the comfort of whichever room feels best for you, can actually lead to faster progress because you are simply with yourself and you're learning how to regulate your own nervous system, your emotions, how to find erotic pleasure, turn on with yourself, and really combine the emotional, physical, and erotic pieces that are important in overcoming vaginismus. So that's what I have to say about this question. If you have any follow-up questions on this, feel free to comment on the video, message me privately, schedule a consultation. I would be very happy to continue to support you in making the right decision for you in terms of who to involve in your path. Just going to check here if there's any live feedback. Cool. So the next question is related to gels or creams. So this is the question. I recently heard of gels and oils used to soothe the pain. What are your thoughts? Thanks. Great question. So this question is referring to the category of numbing creams and numbing gels, often with the active ingredient of lidocaine. You might have heard lidocaine gels that unfortunately more often than not recommended as the first go-to how to help yourself penetrate yourself, where essentially the principle here is, penetrate yourself when you numb the area so you don't feel the pain, so that you can stretch the muscles, so that you can teach the vagina to stretch, so that then they can stretch by itself later on normally without lidocaine, without numbing. This is not something that I agree with. I invite you to trust yourself, and I would say a big warning on using numbing creams and numbing gels. I want to read you something that is a snippet of one of my courses, Pleasant and Effective Dilating, where when we were talking about setting yourself up with the tools, I included this excerpt, whatever it's called, to support you in really making this decision for yourself. Okay, so this is what I've written. You may have been prescribed a lidocaine topical cream, which is a numbing cream used to numb the vaginal entrance and even the vagina. It is a local anesthetic, which works by blocking nerve signals in your body. I don't recommend that you use numbing cream. The cream doesn't help you at the core with awareness and control of your pelvic floor. It doesn't help you consciously master that physical relaxation necessary for an effective dilating practice and for pleasurable penetrative sex down the line. Yes, the pelvic floor muscles may stretch further as you work with a dilator, but they will still be contracting all the time. As well, the body would still be subconsciously experiencing that pain, even if you don't actually feel it. This is re-traumatizing for the body and can make the automatic tightening response even worse, thus deepening the cycle of pain. It may also create a dependency where you then require numbing cream in order to move up in dilator sizes, only to face a challenge when you want to remove it from your routine. You may also experience nerve damage after long-term use. Finally, if you're using it along with a partner, it may numb your partner also. For both parties, numbing and pleasure simply cannot coexist. So I invite you to reconsider this approach. Another personal thought that I have on this is that we are aiming for you to feel the fullness of the pleasure that is waiting for you on the other side of the skill sets that you build in order to get there. If we are numbing something in order to come to a place of feeling it fully, that's counterproductive and counterintuitive. And I can understand why some numbing feels really, desirable right now. Of course you want to numb the pain. It's just a matter of a question of, are we learning how to relax and create openness and create an invitation, a curiosity, a desire, an intrigue, literally a desire for penetration? Or are we trying to tolerate all the bad things while practicing this penetration that we feel like we need to get to, and then having to wean off of the numbing just to arrive at needing to learn those same skills anyways? Yes, there's the element of you visually seeing the dilator inside that creates a wiring of the brain to say, oh, this is possible. And oh, mind, brain, nervous system, let's not be as scared about it as we were before, because I can see it's happening. And this might actually help to create some mind to body connection. Then you take the numbing cream out of the equation and you arrive at a spot that's a little bit more progressed than where you were before. And you may choose that this is the right strategy for you. And I hope that if you do, it goes super, super well and everything is perfect. It's just that I wanted to give you some of those pieces of insight and warning about what some of the impact could be. My approach is very much a holistic mind-body connection, nervous system downregulation, the play of eroticism, finding your authenticity there, learning to communicate that, creating a communication within your own body to understand what is a hell yes and what is a hell no. And if you are feeling like the numbing cream doesn't sit well with you as a concept, please do avoid that. Okay, again, follow-up questions are welcome, and I'm happy to share. So question number 3, I'm stuck on dilator number 3. What can I do to improve? First of all, I want you to know that it is an incredibly frustrating chapter of the journey of your storybook to feel like you're stuck on a particular dilator. It really is. It feels like you've come so far, right? If we look back, because dilator 1 was probably impossible at a certain point, and now you're on dilator 3, and the very same things that you continue to do that had led to progress before are not working anymore. And so that's a fantastic awareness. Can I do? What's something new that you can try as a technique or a strategy to help you improve? And this is a really empowering question to ask, and I want to celebrate you for that. So there are a variety of things that can be at play here. And I want to note that they are in 2 buckets. One is more related to the mentality, the psychology of it, and another is more related to the physical. And of course, if you've ever heard me speak on the topic of vaginismus, you know how interconnected the 2 are. I believe that absolutely every single physical manifestation and tension inside of our body is interconnected to an emotional charge that's stored in that part of the body, as well as a psychological resistance or fear on a subconscious level that's creating that tension and that bracing and that anticipation for pain. Okay, so we can probably talk about this for hours. Now, the most often when we have a sense of stuckness at a particular dilator is because our body is asking us to get more curious in a slightly different way than we've been before. Here are some tools to do that. One would be, this is probably the one that leads to the most breakthroughs. There is a story in the form of a testimonial on my website where you can see one woman's recollection of when she was stuck. I think it was dilator 4, but it may have also been dilator 3. And during our consultation, I recommended for her to use this tool that I'm about to share. This is what led her to getting unstuck from dilator 3, moving to 4, 5, and 6 rather flawlessly, and then being able to have pleasurable penetrative sex. Okay, so this is huge, and it can be the breakthrough for you. It's called trigger point release, internal trigger point release. It's also called vaginal de-armoring. It could also be referred to as yoni mapping and intention release internally from the yoni, which is a Sanskrit word for womb that we use sometimes to refer to that area. So this is a technique in which we are gently releasing the knots of tension, just like you might have knots in your neck after an uncomfortable night of sleep, the knots of tension in the pelvic floor muscles, and we're doing so vaginally. So being a dilator 3, you're already capable of inserting a tool that's going to help you do the trigger point release practice. And I have video guidance on this inside of my course and programs to help you feel supported in that. Okay, so you can start doing trigger point release with a finger, and just the only problem with the finger is its length. It's too short to get to the deep muscles in the vagina. That's why we want an S-shaped wand. It's a trigger point release wand, also called a pelvic wand. And I have a blog post in the Love Diary blog that explains everything about trigger point release, including some of the technique of how to do it. Now, I urge you to know, reading this blog doesn't make you feel prepared to do this with yourself, because there's particular areas inside the vagina that should not be touched with a trigger point release wand. Should not be put any pressure there, because they are not meant for massage and they're very sensitive. So please don't try this on your own. Have the pelvic floor physical therapist support or have video guidance to help you with this. It is possible to do at home by yourself or with the help of a partner. It's just that you need some detailed guidance of exactly what to do. So what does this do essentially? It helps release tension from wherever it exists in the vagina right now. Because yes, dilator 3 is going in and potentially with some discomfort. I would need to hear more about your story of what your experience with this is, but you don't feel like there's any sort of opening to be able to move up to a bigger size. Or maybe dilator 3 is kind of going in part way, but you feel like there's a wall there on the deeper layers of your pelvis. And that's exactly where trigger point release comes into really full help, is to help release those deeper layers of tension. What we do with a wand is we find a spot of tension, kind of like a knot, wherever that might be, and we put slight pressure there, just as though you're testing You're going to put the pressure there. You're actually going to feel some pain. This is the only part of the entire dilating process in which some pain is to be expected, because no other part of the journey should involve any pain, right? We're not taking on the push through mentality. We're not taking on the no pain, no gain mentality. We've got to stop that cycle of pain, and hence we have to take pain out of the equation. And still, with trigger point release, this is the only way to gently release those knots. So you've got a tight spot, you're putting some gentle pressure on it for anywhere between 20 seconds to about 90 seconds. You're breathing through that. There's also leg movement that you can involve in order to lengthen and shorten the muscle in a way that's supportive to releasing the tension. And at whatever timing it happens, you're going to feel a release. Maybe a deepening of the breath, maybe a softening of the spot, maybe also an emotional release. And this is the part of the somatic work that really shows how interconnected the mind, the emotions, and the body are. Because emotion is literally stored in certain spots of the body. The vagina is a prime location for that kind of storage, and we are helping that be released. So if you find yourself crying with that release, that's beautiful, that's perfect. That's what is exactly not necessarily what we're looking for, but it can happen to show you that you're doing something right. The other thing that can happen with internal trigger point release, or like I said, what's called vaginal de-armoring, is that you may also have images or memories pop up for you as you're doing this practice. So you are going to have found a spot, and then all of a sudden you have something come up into your awareness as to what this tension is literally related to. And you might release that storage of tension there in that session, or this may also be a reminder of where to focus on in your emotional healing journey, which memory it is, or which relationship it is, or what concept in your life this is related to, that you can have more intentional growth with to help that physical location of tension release. It really is all about the somatics here. Trauma is stored in the body, and we are lovingly allowing for that to be released, be expressed, and to let go physically. So this may be the biggest breakthrough for you, this trigger point release practice with moving on to the next dilator size. There's other tips. I'm briefly going to mention some of them, right? Whether or not you have involved sexual arousal in your dilating practice, whether you're truly listening to your authentic yeses and nos, whether you're honoring your body's wisdom and communication. Are you listening and are you honoring that? This also be related to how safe you feel in that particular environment that you're dilating in. Have you created it to be a self-care yourself? Or is it more of like an obligation and something you're trying to check off your list? Perhaps you're involving a partner right now, but your body is essentially asking you to take a few steps back and have the partner come in at a later time during your dilating practice, because you're still creating that safety with your own self before involving a partner. When we involve a partner in dilating, we are faced with this additional layer of challenges of feeling like we're not in control of the dilator anymore. Because if a partner is inserting something inside us, we naturally have more reason to brace, because we're not the one holding the dilator, we're not the one moving it in, we're not the one in charge, right? So we need to feel like we are at the full potential of growth in our solo dilating, and only when we're ready to introduce a partner into the process, and from there as well take on some helpful guidance and tips on how to improve communication, how to help that go really well in general, and how to move towards then switching a dilator out for the partner's penis, or if your partner doesn't have a penis, for their body or a sex toy that you'd like to use, whatever form of penetration you'd like to experience. So wonderful question, and I hope that gave you a lot to work with. And I know that hearing all this can also feel overwhelming. So please listen for the one or the two things that feel most resonant for you, and create a plan to apply those for yourself without worrying about all the other stuff. Just take one thing out and create a plan to put it into practice, because this kind of breakthrough can be huge. And again, if you have questions, I'm here. I'm a real person. I am looking forward to supporting you more personally. Okay, final question. Which position to dilate? Please let me know. I am able to do it in the down position. Okay, amazing. You have found a position that is working for you so far, right? Because you said, I'm able to do it in the lying down position. And there are a few different lying down positions that you can do it in. And so let's really just talk about the general topic of dilating and positions. First of all, and trigger warning, some positions may be triggering for you. I'm about to mention assault. If you have any experience of sexual assault, or just feeling completely not in control of your body, somebody's overpowering you physically, you feel like you're being pinned down, this may not be the position that you want to be in as you start to create a nourishing experience of dilating with yourself. So the position of laying on your back with your legs open, and often I also invite you to have those legs supported with some pillows on the side so they can feel like they can really relax. And also that they're not super stretched out, because when we do that, we actually create a little bit of constriction at the vaginal opening. So they want to be gently resting to either side. That particular position, if you have experience of feeling in a position like that, is probably not going to be your go. This is the most common position, and I imagine this is the one that you are also you're also using, and because it is the most common, It is one that works for a lot of women, and that's perfect. And I want to invite you to experiment with yourself. Find a sense of safety in your environment, in your nervous system, right? So be able to know how to downregulate the nervous system upon touch of your body, upon touch around the vaginal opening, upon self-pleasure, whether that involves genital touch or not. It's important to find that safety to then allow for curiosity to start to bubble up. And when it comes to dilating positions, get curious about what kind of positions actually work for you and what kind of positions actually feel like a turn on. That's really important. If you discovered that you're actually really turned on by the idea of the doggy style position and somebody penetrating you from behind, and maybe the sexiness of that feels just juicy and fun and playful, then you're probably going to want to try that position in your own dilating practice. And it's important to get on all fours and just feel that out, see how it feels for you. From that position, you can definitely dilate with yourself. You can also dilate with a fully laying down on your belly position. Of course, this is a little bit easier with shorter dilators than longer dilators, but you can lift your hips a little bit and see how that feels. You can also dilate on the side and maybe prop up your upper leg also with some pillows. Finding which position helps you have full body relaxation to the fullest. And that arousal factor, very important. One thing I want to mention is that certain positions are going to activate the muscles of the legs more so than other ones. So when you're laying on your back and you have your legs spread, we're not, and especially when they're supported by pillows, we are having those muscles of the legs completely relaxed. And at that point, it would also be very important to relax your core muscle. This is something that we often forget. But if you compare that to, say, standing or trying to put a tampon in while standing, what's true is that we are using those muscles for our weight, the support of our weight. And at the same time, we're trying to relax the pelvic floor muscles so something can go inside. And this is where things get tricky. This is where it's almost like a slightly more advanced level of mastery for you to be able to insert something while you're also bearing weight on your legs and your feet. So you probably want to experiment with non-weight bearing positions, like the laying down positions, rather than something that's standing, or even also rather than being on all fours or kind of like kneeling of any sort. If you are on all fours, if you lean forward slightly and you kind of take the weight off of the larger part of your hip area and your legs, and it's mostly on your shoulders, for example, or on your forearms, that might be more supportive for you in that particular position. But the invitation here is to get curious about which parts of the body are currently contracted, are currently bearing weight, and how can we find relaxation, especially in the core muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, obviously, but also in the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes. Okay, so I trust that that also answered your question. And I'm really glad that you're continuously asking questions in this community and you're taking advantage of these question and response sessions. That makes me really happy. I invite for more of us to continue to answer questions or ask questions. I know that participating in a group like this can be outside of our comfort zone right now. And if that's you, I celebrate you for honoring your comfort zone and staying in a safety bubble that is helping you right now in your journey. At any point, staying in a sense of safety is helping you, right? I am not the kind of person that's going to encourage, like, go take a deep dive, push through, like, don't honor yourself and just do the thing that feels terrifying. That's not what we want. If we're trying to do the thing that feels terrifying, we're likely going to be met with the very same freeze response that vaginismus is in the first place. My idea and my belief is that growth happens at the edges of our comfort zone. We've got our bubble of safety. We're walking out to the edge to notice, ooh, if I take another step, I'm about to feel real uncomfortable. Over here, there's a slight butterflies in my stomach. It feels like I'm safe though, and I'm grounded here. I'm good here, but I could see how it's scary over there. And some of those are already starting to be active. This is the spot at which growth happens. And it's up to you to find where the edge of your comfort zone is and take whatever action is in alignment with that. As we take action at that edge of our comfort bubble, of our safety zone, guess what happens? Well, it grows because we see evidence that we are okay. We see empowering evidence of, oh, I did that. I can do that again. And I feel more comfortable doing that the second time. And each time we do, our comfort zone literally grows and grows and grows, and we have a wider capacity of holding those sensations, as well as more access to different kinds of behaviors and actions in our life. And that's what behavior change is all about. It's about finding the greater payoff and shifting a behavior in favor of a greater payoff than the payoff we're currently experiencing right now. And again, I'm a huge nerd and fanatic of these kinds of topics, the mind-to-body connection, the psychology behind it all. And I'm super grateful to be able to share that with you years and years after my journey came to an end, and now being in my sexual exploration and sexual adventure, also feeling like I can infuse some of those pieces in the initial journey of overcoming vaginismus, because infusing the eroticism in it is so critical. Our medical community doesn't do enough of that. And unfortunately, we all grew up in a shame-steeped culture around sex. And it's okay that we did. I mean, it's not okay that we did, but the fact that we did doesn't make us any less valuable as members of society. It simply is our experience, and we get to take an empowering stance to shift the impact of that experience and to kick some vaginismus butt. So I celebrate you. I invite you to note right now, take this moment right now to think of something that you're celebrating yourself for. At each of our final community calls, our sexually liberated group program calls, we do this celebration. What are you celebrating? Make that a tradition, and please comment with that celebration on this video. I want to read it, honor you, and celebrate you so we can be celebrating you together. Okay, until our next question and response, I know that I'm also speaking to quite a few of you next week during consultations. I'm really looking forward to that. And at any point, if you'd like to ask some more personalized questions, feel free to message me. All right, see you later.